it's me, Caitlin. I must apologise first and foremost for the state of how I look today. I have literally done nothing with my hair, got nothing on my face, I've got my glasses on, I'm in my scruffy hoodie and leggings sitting on my living room floor. It's just been one of them days today. But anyway, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am going to be doing a super chilled, super relaxed story time video for you guys on my epilepsy story / journey, whatever it is you want to call it. I'm going to be telling you guys all about my illness, basically. I mentioned in my Q&A video where I did my makeup a little bit about my epilepsy situation, but I said that if you guys were interested, I would do a full video on it, and a full story, which some of you guys did respond back and say that you wanted to see this video. But anyway, I'm literally going to get straight into it, so get yourself nice and comfy and we're going to go ahead and get started. So let's go. So for me, my story began probably, it was either in year 7 or year 8. I cannot for the life of me remember, but we'll go into more of the memory side of things later on in the video. But it began in either year 7 or year 8. And everything for me as a child in general was fine. I was never poorly or ever in hospital, anything like that. I was really well and healthy child. But halfway through year 7 or year 8, I had started just doing my normal things that kids do at school or at home, just doing my own thing. And I would just have moments where I would completely blank out. So I would just be doing anything at all, whether that be reading or writing at school, and I would just completely freeze. So it would be almost like I'd just left my body and my body was just there with nobody there answering. And people would shout my name, they'd wave in my face, they'd click the fingers, absolutely nothing. And these would usually last for about, say, like 5 to 8 seconds. They weren't that long. And then I would just completely snap back out of it. And everyone would be like, Caitlin, are you okay? And I'd be like, what? And I would have no idea what just happened. I was completely out of that 5 to 8 second moment. But it just, over time, it started happening more and more frequently. So if I can remember rightly, my parents took me to the doctors and they decided to refer me to the hospital so that I could have further tests done. And I had, if I'm correct, it's either called an EEG or an ECG scan, where you have to have a scan on your brain where you kind of have to put like this weird hat on and they scan your brain for any abnormalities. So I went for this scan. We waited for the results to come back. Didn't think anything of it, to be honest. We didn't expect to go back to the hospital and for them to turn around and say that I had epilepsy. And at that point, 13, 12-year-old me, however old I was at the time, I can remember being pretty damn scared because I didn't really know at the time what epilepsy was. I'd heard of it, but I didn't know exactly what it was. From what I can imagine, my parents were terrified too. You know, as any parent would be, their child has been diagnosed with an illness that is very severe and it's terrifying and it can impact your life dramatically. And it has definitely for me over my teenage years and still to this day, which we'll go into later. But I was diagnosed with it. They put me on my first batch of medication, which was called lamotrigine. And there was just these tiny, tiny little tablets. And I think I had to take about 3 or 4 morning and night. I think it was 3. I think they gave me like 3 little ones and then to start off with. And then I started going from these vacancies into full-blown convulsions on the floor, which, as you can imagine, is terrifying. I can remember the first day I had my first seizure and I was in my room and I woke up lying kind of similar to how I was now. They'd sat me up, I was leaning against the radiator of my bedroom by the window. They'd opened my bedroom window to let some air in. I'd woke up and I was lying here with 2 paramedics in front of me. I was so confused, I felt sick, I felt weak, exhausted, everything that you can imagine. And the paramedics had just said to me, you're okay, you're fine, you've had a seizure. And of course I was young and I was terrified at the fact that that had just happened to me. And I just kept saying, am I going to die? Because of course that is your first initial response when something like that happens to you. You think to yourself, am I going to die? So after the paramedics left and they treated me and everything, I then got into bed and probably slept for about 3 to 4 hours, and I just couldn't walk, I couldn't eat, I couldn't do anything. I just wanted to sleep. And eventually, after waking up from this sleep, feeling very hungry, very sick, I would then be able to have a drink and have a little bit of something to eat. But majority of the time, I would just throw up from the amount of fitting that I would have done. It would have completely upset my whole insides, and I would just usually throw up. There has been plenty of times with my seizures where I have caused a lot of injuries to my body. Of course, if you guys know well enough, when you have a seizure, you fall onto the floor, you can bang any parts of your body. I've hurt the back of my head so many times, it is unreal. I've hit the front of my head here, my arms, my knees, the backs of my arms up here as well. So of course, when we went to the hospital and we told them that I'd had seizures, they then dosed my medication up more. So then I was taking, I believe, 3 small of the lamotrigine and then 2 of the bigger tablets. So it was more dosage and it was more stronger. But that didn't seem to be doing the trick. I was having them more and more often. And my mum started tracking every time I was having a seizure, and they would typically start falling on a Saturday. And my mum kind of put that down to the fact that I was going to school Monday to Friday. And then I was also dancing at the time as well. I was probably dancing 4 evenings a week. So by the weekend, my body was just completely exhausted and drained of all energy, that I would just go completely into override and then have a seizure. So to this day, I'd just like to quickly mention, they never found out what caused my epilepsy. It just came about one day when I was in year 7, year 8, and they never found out what triggered it, because it was never anything to do with lights. The more and more I started having these seizures, the more the doctor at the hospital realised, right, this lamotrigine, it's not doing anything for her. We need to find something stronger. And I'd had seizures at my own home, in my room, in the bathroom, in the kitchen. Like, I'd probably had one in every single room of the house. I'd had one at my grandparents' house, I'd had one at my friend's house, I'd had one in the middle of the town centre close to where I live. And then my final one, which we'll talk about a little bit later, well, we're going to talk about it now actually. My final seizure I had when I was in year 11, so I was 15, 16, I can't remember exactly how old, but usually in year 11, you're 15, 16, and I was in PE, and I believe we were doing cheerleading or gymnastics or something like that, and I just remember waking up on the studio floor. I could just hear all my friends crying. There was the first aid people in the schools, the paramedics, and my parents as well. And I was obviously taken out of the studio, and my parents put me in the car and we went home, because by this point, my parents knew how to handle me when I'd had a seizure. They knew to just put something comfortable under my head, check on my tongue to make sure that I wasn't choking on my tongue, because that can happen when you have a seizure. You can swallow your own tongue, which can then cause you to choke and die while having a seizure. So my parents would always know to check on that. And there's nothing you can do. When someone is having a seizure, all you can do is just make sure that they avoid themselves from hurting themselves any further and just let them have a seizure. And then once I'd finished, my parents would put me into the recovery position, and then once I'd wake up, they'd then help me get into bed and I'd sleep it off. So that's kind of like how the routine went with me for a seizure. So by this point that I'd had the final seizure, my parents knew what to do. So we got in the car, we went home, and I slept. And that was actually the final epileptic seizure that I'd had. And I think by that point, I'd not long just started taking the medication that I take still to this day, which is called Keppra. They completely took me off the lamotrigine because they believed that was just making the seizures worse. It was just completely reacting to them, just making sparking them up more in my brain. So they moved me on to the medication that I'm on today, which is called Keppra, and it is a super strong medication if you've got epilepsy. And to this day, I have not had a seizure once. I don't think that it's gone. I definitely believe it's still here in my brain. However, because of the medication that I'm on, it's, I believe, super in control, and it's not sparked a seizure since. Touch wood, just gonna touch the wooden table here. I'm 23 now, so of course it's been many, many years since I had my last seizure. So of course I drive now. I'm completely fit to drive. I'm more than capable to drive. I'm completely independent, and like I said, I still take the medication to this date. I am no longer under the care of the hospital anymore because I'd stopped having the seizures. I'd been fit free for so long, they didn't seem it necessary for me to keep having checkups when everything was fine. They just wanted me to have this prescription ongoing for probably the rest of my life, but we don't know. They've never turned around to me and said, we're going to start weaning you off your medication, because of course we don't want to risk doing that in case the seizures come back, because if I have a fit, I lose my car, I lose my license. So personally, I think I will be on this medication for the rest of my life, which doesn't bother me. I take 3 tablets in the morning and 3 tablets at night every single day, Monday to Sunday, but it doesn't affect me at all. The medication has never bothered me. I'm glad that I have it because of course it stops me from having these seizures. In terms of like side effects, the only thing that epilepsy has damaged me massively is my memory. So before I even started having the vacancies where I would just blank out, my memory used to be absolutely spot on. So as I mentioned briefly, I used to dance quite a lot. I started at the age of 2 and I left when I was 18 before I started uni. And my memory used to be spot on. I could remember routine after routine. I was really, really good at memorising things. And then as soon as I started having these vacancies and then the seizures, my memory went absolutely awful. And it's not necessarily long term, it's very short term. So say for example, I'm upstairs and I want to come downstairs and grab a snack. I'll know exactly what snack I want, and majority of the time I will get into the kitchen and I will forget what the heck I've come in the kitchen for, which I know you guys can say that happens to everyone, but for me, it happens a lot. I will forget a lot of things. Like, I will say that I need this, I'll go to the shop and I'll be like, I can't remember what I came in for. But overall, I have never seen it as a drag on my life. I feel like I can still carry on my life as normal. I don't see it as an illness because it's not here, it's not there, it's inside here, but it is controlled by medication and it doesn't affect my life now. Yes, it took away a scary part of my teenage years because I had it when I was like 12, 13 and it stopped when I was 16. I was in fear that one day I would have a seizure and not wake up ever again because I had choked myself to death in a seizure. So of course that was probably like the biggest part, was just that fear of one day not waking up and dying in the middle of a seizure. But of course now I've not had a seizure since then. I'm under medication, it's controlled, it doesn't affect my life now, and I can live a normal happy life and things are good really. So that pretty much wraps up my story, where it all started and how it is now. That is pretty much my epilepsy story, epilepsy journey, whatever it is, once again, you want to call it. But yeah, it was just a little quick one because you guys wanted to hear my story. I get a lot of people ask about it all the time because a lot of people don't even realise that I have it. So I hope that it spreads some kind of knowledge and awareness as well. If you ever have any questions or anything like advice or anything like that about, you know, epilepsy in general and how to help a friend or family member that's got it, then please don't hesitate to leave me a comment down below or message me privately on social media. That is completely fine. I'm no expert at all, but I know my body well enough to know how it all works. So yeah, that's pretty much everything, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, like I said, hope it spreads some kind of awareness out there for other people that suffer with it like I do. So if you liked this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. And of course, if you're watching this video and you're not subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. That would really help me out so much. And other than that, guys, I'll see you in my next video. Hopefully it won't be as depressing as this one was. So I'm gonna go finish my drink now and chill out. See you soon. Bye.